and a lot of people wearing green. So come on in. Okay, great. Welcome everyone. Excuse me, I'm Reverend Maureen, and I want to introduce Rick Dale this morning. So Rick, do you have something for us?
Well, I had something for you, and then I looked down and realized I was wearing green, so I changed it. So,
Oh, wow.
let's hope that this works. On the day I was born, said me father, said he, I've an elegant legacy waiting for ye. 'Tis a rhyme for your lip and a song for your heart, to sing it whenever the world falls apart. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow the fellow who follows a dream. So I bundled me heart and I roamed the world free, to the east with the lark, to the west with the sea. And I searched all the earth and I scanned all the skies, but I found it at last in my own true love's eyes. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow the fellow who follows a dream. Follow the fellow, follow the fellow, follow the fellow who follows a dream.
Thank you, Rick. And now that we're in an Irish mood, let's do a little opening treatment. So I just invite all of you to get comfortable, and if you want to, just uncross your legs, put your feet on the floor, and take a deep breath. Just know with me, there is only one. Only one. One spirit, one life, which is God's life. And as I speak these words, I speak them, the I of whom I speak is you, when I say that I am one with this power, one with the one, with the all. And since my source is unlimited, I am unlimited. I am prosperous. I am wealthy. I have money to share and money to spare. Life is abundant in all things. And the creation is always occurring. So I am creative because I am one with this creative power. Everything I do and say is a beautiful creation of my thinking, my words. And I know that my body is perfect and healed and whole because I am one with this power. So I know that I am also loved because God is love. I am love. I am lovable and loving. I deserve love. I open my heart wide every day. I clean the windows to my heart and I open the doors so love comes in and goes out freely, because I am love. So I give gratitude to this universe, to this presence, to this power. I give gratitude for my life, for expressing it for the highest good of all. And I give gratitude for Carlsbad Center for Spiritual Living. I give gratitude for the fellowship. We are all God in an amazing disguise, expressing. So I know this is true. I release my word. I know it is so, and together we say it. And so it is. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Carlsbad this morning. And we believe there is a power for good in the universe greater than we are that we can use. So we come together to teach, to demonstrate, and inspire a positive spiritual approach to life. So at this time, I'd like to call up Melissa for the candle lighting. These candles symbolize and remind us of the underlying spirit of life and the unity of all. I hope you will enjoy the changes we made. So first, we light a candle for life. Life is everywhere present, flowing through each and every one of us. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is my life now. So please say with me, I am life. Next, we light a candle for love. The birth of love happens within each one of us every time we make room for the Christ consciousness in our hearts and in our lives. We are transformed. I am a point of love within the heart of God. So please say with me, I am love. Next, we have a candle for light. The light of God is the presence and the power. We're always walking in the light. I radiate the light of God wherever I am. So please say with me, I am light. So we light a candle for beauty. We're made in the likeness and image of God. We are each whole, complete, and beautiful, just as we are. I accept the beauty of God's perfection as my perfection now. So please say with me, I am beauty. And we light a candle for joy. Joy is the very nature of spirit and the true essence of each of us. We celebrate the joy of our own rebirth in God consciousness. I bring joy to the world. So please say with me, I am joy. We light the candle for peace. Today and every day we open our hearts to peace. I'm a center of peace in our world. So please say with me, I am peace. And finally, I invite you all just to take a moment and recognize your own inner light that is always shining within, as we honor our own metaphysical path of wholeness, oneness, and mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. Thank you, Melissa. So, announcements. They're in your bulletin. If you look at your bulletin, we have just letting you know, spiritual mind treatments are available for everyone. If you'd like a treatment after the service, or you would like the practitioners, and let's raise our hands for who's here and available to do prayer treatment. Reverend Maddie, yes. Also, just to let you know, you can fill out a written request and put it in the lobby, and the practitioners and ministers will do treatment during the week for you. For anyone new, yes, we have a new person. Don't mean to embarrass you, but we have sign-up sheet in the lobby, and please leave your email, and we'll send you the weekly things. And I also want to say thank you to all the volunteers. Look at these flowers. Aren't these magnificent? Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. And thank you again, Martha, for being greeter. Oh, you weren't greeter? Who was a greeter? Oh, Robert. Oh, thank you, Robert, for greeting. Okay, and thank you, everyone, for potluck. And thank you, Larry, for recording. And also to Angel and Jan for the setup and for the bookstore. So thank you. And any other announcements? Sometime in May, probably starting in May, I'm going to do a series of Hindu and Buddhist and Sikh and Ekankar meditations. So join me then. So the group reading in your program, just say with me, God is all, both visible and invisible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect love and perfect abundance. I am the individualized expression of God. I am ever one with perfect life, perfect love, and perfect abundance. So, would you like to stand for another song?
Yes, we are singing We're Not Waiting for a Bus. This song, you know it well. It's called I Release. Oh, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Oh, yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Let's break it down. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Thank you, Rex. Woo, that's a hard one to follow.
Yes.
I'd like to invite Nancy. Where are you? Inspirational reading. Thank you.
This passage, can you hear me?
Yes.
This passage is adapted from Think Your Troubles Away by Ernest Holmes. The study of science of mind does but little good unless we make definite use of it. Science is the knowledge of laws and proximate causes. The technique of any science constitutes what we know about the principle of that science and our ability to definitely use it. A scientific truth can be demonstrated insofar as we understand it. If any particular theory cannot be demonstrated, it may or may not be true. When a theory is proved to be true, it should be accepted. All people interested in that science should know that if they use its laws in a certain way, they will be able to demonstrate its principle. It is such an approach to religion that the world needs today, for all people are instinctively religious. We feel that if we could only understand this God, this supreme intelligence, and come into close enough relationship with it, our troubles would cease to be. In going back over the teaching of Jesus, the most of which has been superstitiously interpreted, what do we find? A most simple teaching. Believe it, and it shall be done unto you. What shall be done? The thing that we believe in, be it heaven or hell. The thing that Jesus did, that even his disciples struggled with, is that he believed what he taught. We do not. We should not condemn ourselves, however, for our unbelief, but we should seek to develop a greater faith. It must be that Jesus had convinced himself that the universe responded to him, and that there was no lingering doubt. That thing which responded to him and never seemed to fail. This power did not say to him, "Now Jesus, this man is really sick. He really has a cancer, and it has been pronounced incurable." The power responded to the great faith of this remarkable spiritual genius. It always responded to him since he never doubted it and because he lived in harmony with it. We must give up our unbelief in order that we may entertain our belief. The one who does this the most effectively is the one who is not afraid of the external experience which contradicts their inward affirmation. They may acknowledge the condition, but at the same time are conscious that the power they are using is greater than the condition. The power to do this already lies within us, in its fullness. We must train the mind to believe and to realize that the universe is not divided against itself. The good we can experience is equivalent to as much good as we can conceive. We must return to a basis of absolute and utter simplicity. The way to use science of mind is to use it. The way to think about it is to believe in it. The way to demonstrate it is to act as though it were true and to stop acting as if it were not true. Nothing is too good to be true.
Thank you, Nancy. And cause and effect, I just wanted to remind you, next week I'll be talking about the Big Bang, and we'll talk about some more cause and effect. So at this time, I want to ask Rick again to play. Yes?
Of course.
All right, thank you.
That's what I came here for. I would like to do you a song that I wrote many years ago. Since spring is right around the corner and it's sort of the season for resurrection, and what can I say? It's all right to cry, but don't make sadness your home. It's okay to be afraid, always remembering you're not alone. Your pain will go away, but you are here to stay. us, but don't buy into that lie. Fear may assail us. Truth is, the soul can never die. The old life is ours to lose. The new is ours to choose. Roll back the stone, let the light in, resurrect the truth of your purpose and your plan. Accept that everlasting life is yours now and forever. Now and forever. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. Oh, let your light shine. Roll back the stone. Let the light in. Resurrect your truth of your purpose and your plan. Accept that everlasting life is yours now and forever. Now and forever. The story of our lives is written in the soul. We make the picture. Spirit has given us a starring role. Beauty is in our hands. And now we understand. Roll back the stone. Let the light in. Resurrect the truth of your purpose and your plan. Accept that everlasting life is yours now and forever. Now and forever. Now and forever. Now and forever.
Thank you, Rick, for that beautiful message. Do you know who wrote that? Did you write that? You
Oh
wrote that.
gosh, that was gorgeous.
Thank you, thank you. Well, this is a special time to welcome Reverend Kate DuVivier, who will be giving our message for today.
Pretty green. Oh, shall I turn it on then? After all that fuss, I should turn it on too. Okay, so I wrote this message too. I don't think it was like quite so fantastic, but you know, I started writing the message and I just go blah blah blah, and then I thought, wait, what is the purpose? why do people even come here? Well, I know, because we're having a potluck and it's really good. And that's me too. But I just wanted to say, I think that we're all on this path of learning how to move through life to sort of become better navigators of our way through the storms. And sometimes it's very clear sailing and sometimes it's not. And so I loved your song and the idea of resurrection, because that's what we teach here, is that every single moment we can be resurrected. Every single moment we can start again. So even though it's not really St. Patrick's Day, it's actually a couple of days late, we just wanted to celebrate St. Patrick's Day a little, so we are. Why not? Last week, Reverend Maureen talked about quantum wholeness. And we all have our different levels of scientific knowledge, and certain things stick with us more than other things. And what really stuck with me still is the image of practitioner Robert time traveling from here to there instantaneously. I love that. I love that example of quantum movement. It's all instantaneous, it's all taking place at the same time. And so whenever I think about last Sunday, I picture him like here, there, and everywhere. It's very fun, to just think about. We live in this universe of possibilities, and we're big, we're almost like elephants. We kind of lumber through life. So it's fun to know that at the little micro, teeny tiny level, things are really moving quickly. And we do have this ability to make some choices. So, speaking of choices and questions and answers, if you have questions, we can do them at the end, but we won't take too long with questions because I know everyone will want to eat. But I have a question for you. What kind of spells do leprechauns use? Nobody knows? Lucky charm.
Traditional Irish bread.
Exactly. So, no, I qualify as a partly Irish American, but when I was growing up, we never really particularly celebrated St. Patrick's Day. Beyond, we had to wear green, otherwise you'd get pinched viciously at school, right? Hopefully they don't encourage that kind of bullying anymore, but it was the way it was. And to be honest, when I was older, after I learned really about the history of Ireland and the immigration, why did people come to America and Australia, I got it into my head that term, the luck of the Irish, it must have been totally satirical, because it didn't seem to me that they had any luck at all. It seemed like a very unlucky group of people to me when I, thought about it. But now, later, knowing more about history and more about the history of the world, I can't think of a single cultural group that over history or even today hasn't faced extreme hardship and conflict of some kind. It might have been long ago, like the Irish, 100 years, more than 100 years ago, or 100, well, it all depends on what you're counting, But also, if you think about it, isn't it true that every cultural group, every country, every nation also has some really great things about history? So I talked to someone today who said, well, they weren't wearing green because they were Danish. I said, oh, that's okay. You've got the Little Mermaid, you know. So, I mean, there's always, you know, I'm just being frivolous, but why not? So, in the play, Hamlet, thinking of an Englishman, Shakespeare had Hamlet say, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. You know, the common interpretation of these words is that each experience presents an infinite number of interpretations. It's our interpretation of every event that determines to us whether it was positive or negative. So as we look at things in the immediate past, we might think of them as being negative, and then as time goes by, we could sometimes reframe them and see maybe there was something positive about it. At the same time, there's another saying, it's a little more modern, and that's hindsight is 20/20. Isn't that almost the opposite idea? Isn't it like, you know, once we let go of our emotions and we look at things clearly, it's hard and fast. That's the way it is. We see it for what it is. We see clearly. So can both sayings be true at the same time? Can we say it's thinking that informs what we think about our past experiences, or it's just, you know, once we get through it and we look back, it's black and white. This is the way it is. I think when we do look back through time, when we look back at the past, it can be like looking through what we call the mists of time. You know, we're all different. We have different mental characteristics, different ways of storing our memories or accessing our memories. So I have one friend, and when you talk to him about something that happened in the past, he will tell you the exact day and time and location where it happened. You can even, I remember we were talking about working on a school, and he goes like, oh yeah, I remember it was like on October 14th of 2015 when we were at McDonald's and we were talking about this. He's so specific. He has this amazing memory. And, you know, I know someone else, and when you talk to him, he'll pick up on a conversation thread that happened weeks ago as though it had been 5 minutes ago. And I'll be like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about, you know? And then we all know people who remember things that are in the far past, their childhood, much better than they remember things that happened a few weeks or a month ago. The mind is so interesting. So I don't know how you think about things. In my own mind, when I think about my memory, I just imagine it as like a room full of file cabinets, you know, and every year I add another file cabinet, and as time goes by, it's just getting really hard sometimes to pick out that particular memory. It takes a while to rummage through and see what it is. But I read a little article by an author, and he said his experience was that his mind was blank, that he wasn't completely unaware of his thoughts until he picked up a pencil and started writing. And then they poured out, and it was a surprise. I mean, there's so many different ways to be a human being. We're so unique. It's really fantastic. So, you know, how do you see your own relationship with your own memory? How would you describe your thought process? Do you feel like everything is as clear as a bell? Or are you more like me and live in a little bit of a timeless haziness? I think a lot of us do feel like our memory powers are lacking in some way or another. So I read this book a while ago. I don't remember everything that was in it, and I didn't reread it, but when I see the cover, it reminds me that there are a few points that I really liked in the book. It's called Mozart's Brain and the Fighter Pilot, Unleashing Your Brain's Potential. And it's got exercises on how to, be more able to access your memories. But for me, my big takeaways were one that, and I had never thought about this before, our memories are not simply lined up in our brain in sequential order. It's not like books on a bookshelf. Our memories just kind of exist. They just exist, and it's like they're dormant. They only come into play when we're able to connect up with them or connect them with each other. And the other interesting thing that he talks about is how some memories are quite faint and others are really, really clear. And that faintness or strength of the memory has nothing to do with how recent it was. It has everything to do with either like how vivid the experience was. When you go on vacation, it's more memorable than when you go to the living room, right? It just is. And the other thing that makes a memory more vivid is how recently you thought about it or how often you think about it. It keeps it kind of front of mind and stronger in that way. But the other thing he said is that every time you bring up a memory, you're changing it a little bit. Well, that's right in line with what Shakespeare was talking about. Thinking makes it so. And I think probably most of you will agree that some of your memories of things from your childhood maybe have changed or shifted a little bit, or you have, we would call it a greater perspective on things that have happened. So how do we connect with our memories? It's interesting to me. So I was riding in the car and listening to the radio, and this woman was talking about the great time she had going out in the desert and looking at the stars. All of a sudden, I remembered when I was 9 years old, and I went with my mom and my stepfather, and we went out to the desert to look at the stars, and it was so vivid and so clear, but I hadn't thought about that memory for a long time. But somehow, her memory connected me with my memory. See, when we say, we're all one and we are all connected, that's the type of thing that can demonstrate to us in a small way that there is some truth to this idea. So, I just had this great memory, which I loved, of back then being in Borrego Springs in the very dark and clear sky. Mm-hmm. So St. Patrick's Day is for me a big memory jogger. I mean, for some of you it probably, triggers different kinds of memories. Hopefully not all about being pinched, but there's that too. So, but I think about Ireland being Irish American and having some roots there, not 100%, but partly. Like more recently. The more recent immigrants were from Ireland, let's put it that way. So I have been to Ireland a few times, and I actually visited Blarney Castle 3 times. And what was interesting, and it kind of fits, is when I was thinking about it, I wanted to mention that in the talk. And it was like my memory of those 3 times was all squished together. And it was like, wait, what happened the first time, and what happened the second time, and what happened the third time? I even had to ask my husband, how many times did you and I go together? No, I got it straightened out anyway, unjumbled. See, the thing is that time is just not as hard and fast as we think it is. It can be a little squishy as we think about it. And when we look back, it can actually feel like we're looking through a fog, especially if you're looking back on something that you didn't think about since last St. Patrick's Day or something. But the first time, anyway, to get on with my story, the first time I visited Blarney Castle, I was 14 and I went with my mom and my grandmother, and I remember I was so shocked. This is why it was vivid. I was so shocked because my mother actually kissed the Blarney Stone. And she, at the time, to my mind, was like this old woman of 35. I couldn't believe that she would do such a thing, because you had to lay down on your back with these guys holding on to you and lean out over the edge of the castle wall to kiss the stone, which was not like attached to the stone, but like attached way out to the castle wall. And so I was like, oh, Mom. And then the last time we visited, our youngest son he was really little, and he was super agile. He was like Mr. Little jungle gym climber. So we let him kiss the Blarney Stone. And in his case, they also held on to him, not because he couldn't do it himself, but because he was so little he could fall through the gap. So it's like, oh yeah, hold on to him, please. But he was light, so there's that. But the other time, and this is maybe to expand this idea of connection, the other time, the second time I went, it was just my husband and me. And it was a trip to Ireland that had been very monumental for me in a certain way. It was very memorable, because we had gone originally with my grandfather and some other family members, and we had met my grandfather's 2 first cousins. And we had visited the graveyard where there were some dead relatives. And this time, so anyway, we parted ways. So my husband and I went off by ourselves, and we went to Blarney Castle. And this time, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so affected by the vibe, the castle vibe. I just felt emotionally connected, not to my history particularly, but to the fact that this was a place where people had been fighting, where there had been a series of wars over the centuries. I was actually very unsettling for me. I was like, oh, I really don't even want to go in there. It was like that kind of emotional response. And I think I just wanted to share that as an example of how sometimes we can feel very connected, not just to our own memories, but we can feel connected to these other memories that don't actually belong to us individually. They can kind of just hit us. And not just to memories, but to other things. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's perfectly predictable that since I had written about this, that someone came up to me today and talked about an odd coincidence she had in meeting someone who had attended this center, 30 years ago, something like that. Just unexpected, because I had just, what I was going to say is we are so connected to each other, to nature, but we're not really limited by what's going on in the everyday world. So I'm pretty sure most of you have experienced the sensation of hearing the phone ring and thinking, oh, that's so-and-so. right? How do you know that? Or maybe you've traveled somewhere and strangely you find that some person you know from your hometown is at exactly the same place that you traveled to, and you had no clue that they were going there at the same time. Or simply, maybe you've just picked up a book and opened it to a page and was like, that's what I needed to read right now. It's just amazing. You know, I have a pet cat and a dog, and if you have a pet, you might have just had that experience where you're like, oh, I wonder where my cat is, and suddenly the cat like runs over to you like, I'm here. And we get these little hints all the time of our connectedness. These synchronicities are like, hey, you are connected to the universe. And we can call it a result of the law of attraction, or we can just say, oh, it's just pure coincidence. But it's still happening to us all the time. So my experience in Florida Castle was also a connection like that. And I say that because I just wanted to share that, because I think that sometimes we have feelings, they're not really our feelings, that kind of like come through us. That happens a lot if say you're watching the news and you're hearing about an earthquake thousands of miles away, and you have this upwelling of emotion. It is a connectedness, and one of the things we need to be able to do as we navigate through life is to see and stay separate. You know, this is going on, and here's, you know, what I can do. Maybe I will give a gift for earthquake relief or something, but I also am not going to be knocked off my bearings by these emotions that are not necessarily my own emotions. I'm going to stay grounded. And that's why I love the science of mind, is because there are so many practices that can help us stay grounded. And as we understand it more and more, we understand that we are at choice. We can choose the emotions that we're going to experience. So, you know, this connectedness can be really good though. Like I gave kind of like a example of a negative emotion, but imagine that you're just walking at the beach. Don't you feel connected to nature? And the emotion is so uplifting and joyous. You know, if you just, you know, meet a child, you just have that emotion of good. And what we can always do is choose our thoughts and choose to remember and reflect and, I don't know, make more vivid in our minds some of these happy emotions that bring us a sense of peace. So when we're talking about how it is that our memories exist, it seems almost beyond the limits of time and space. That brings me to one of the ideas about the science mind that Ernest Holmes had that really puzzled me in the beginning. And it's this idea, it's the idea that everything that has ever happened, every thought that has ever been thought by anyone still exists as a memory in what he calls subjective mind, or our shared unconscious, our shared mind. He wrote this about this greater mind and our individual mind. He wrote, the soul is a seat of memory, the mirror of the mind in the individual. It is the creative power within us. It is the creative power within us, creating from the patterns given it. That's why we're at choice. to remember what we choose to remember, to emphasize what we choose to emphasize. Creating from the patterns given it and from the memories it contains, we gather soul or subjective force as we accumulate the right kind of experiences. He says the law of the soul is subject to the conscious spirit, that tendencies set in motion in the soul tend to produce their like or something similar in the day-to-day world. He says from this we can understand why it is that we have access to the healing power of the spoken word. It operates through mental law, because the law of mind, the way it works, is always subjective. So this is what we're working with when we talk about changing our thinking, and we really do. You really will find that as you change your thoughts, as you think more and more about the positive, that your life will unfold in more and more positive ways. So the fact is that beyond this operation of the law, the subjective mind almost says there's something even deeper, right? So when we think of memories and everything, these are like things that we experience, how we interpret, how we make our way through the world. But he says there's something deeper, and that is spirit itself. Spirit itself, the thing itself, God. When we are able to have a direct connection with spirit, then we have what's called illumination, inspiration. So we have, the mind that we think with, and then we have the mind that can be open to this illumination, this opening of our connection with spirit itself. So when I traveled to Ireland, the truth is, the land was beautiful, the music was beautiful, the people were friendly, and that's true of everywhere I've traveled. We always are having a mixture of experiences, or we call them manifestations, going on all the time. And we choose to see clearly what fits us, what we choose. We see clearly what it is we choose to see clearly. So now, this is, now when I hear someone say the luck of the Irish, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I don't worry about it as not being true or history or whatever. I know it's true because we choose our luck, we make our luck. I don't believe in fate anymore. I don't believe, in any force for evil or not good as existing on itself. I realize today that we live in freedom, and we are free to choose our thoughts and our beliefs, and we are free to know the truth and use the truth that there is a power for good, and we can use it. So that's the way it is. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And before I call Rick up, I have one more question for you. What type of music do leprechauns enjoy? Shamrock and roll.
What a bright light you are.
Yeah.
Memory is a funny thing. I can remember the melody and the lyrics to the Pepsodent song from 1958.
Wow.
But every time I leave the house, I thank God that I remembered to put pants on. So, I'd like to do a song for you about seeing clearly. Hindsight, foresight, whatever sight you want. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone, and I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. And here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue I can see clearly now, the rain is gone, and I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Thank you, Rick. Rick's so great. You know, he didn't know what I was going to talk about really or whatever, and he just like throws in the perfect song. So wonderful. Okay, it's our time. We call it conscious giving, and so let's just know together that we live in an abundant universe. We see the signs of abundance everywhere around us. In the grains of sand on the beach, and the number of clouds in the sky, and the beautiful, beautiful unlimited air that we're able to breathe. This is an abundant universe, and so I know that there is good for each of us, there is good for the center, and I give thanks for all the good now flowing into our lives in the form of money, in the form of joy, in the form of perfect health and happiness. This is the truth. I give thanks, and so it is. So,
Me first.
oh, yeah, great, thank you. In your program.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
I choose to be happy and I choose love. It's 11 a.m.
And God spoke.
Time to end, but before we end, before I give my closing treatment, I just want to remind everyone we're having potluck. We'll set up some tables in the back of this room. If you forgot to bring a dish, don't worry. I think there's plenty. Everyone is invited. And so I just want to close out with a spiritual mind prayer treatment. And then the closing song is on the back of your programs. So I invite you to know the truth with me that this is a spiritual universe, that in truth there is nothing but spirit, that each one of us is an individualized expression of spirit itself, that we live and have our being in spirit. And I know this is true for me as it is for everyone here today. And so on behalf of all of us, I claim and I declare that there really is good for us. There is good for us in our daily lives. There is good that is now unfolding as wonderful health, wonderful joy, wonderful friendships, wonderful relationships, wonderful abundance in all its forms. There is good for us, and on behalf of each and every person here and each and every person with whom we are connected, I accept it. I know it is the truth. I know it is done to us as we believe, and I, in full faith, believe that good unfolds right here, right now, in this moment, and in the great infinite forever. This is the truth. I turn this treatment over to Spirit, knowing it is done, and invite you to close with me by saying, and so it is. Thank you. So rise and we'll have our closing.
Open your heart, let your love go free, out over the ocean, right across the street. Let it flow like a river, let it fly like a dove, till your heart remembers you can't stop love. Once you get it started, watch what it does. It'll go full circle. You can't stop love. Open your heart, let your love go free, out over the ocean, right across the street. Let it flow like a river, let it fly like a dove, till your heart remembers you can't stop love. Once you get it started,